My wife cheated on me, somehow my parents blame me, and they still have family dinners without me. I don't even know where to start because my life feels like it's been flipped upside down. I'm 28 meters, and a few months ago, I found out my wife, 30F let's call her Kayla, was cheating on me. That betrayal shattered me in ways I didn't know were possible, but what's been even harder to process is how my family has reacted. Instead of supporting me, they've somehow turned this into my fault. I thought my parents would have my back, but instead, they've been blaming me for the affair. According to them, I must have pushed her away, or not been enough for her to stay faithful. And to make things worse, they've continued having weekly family dinners where Kayla is a regular guest. Meanwhile, I'm not even invited. Imagine finding out your own parents would rather sit down to break bread with the woman who destroyed your marriage than comfort you, their son. Here's everything that's happened so far. I started noticing things were off with Kayla months ago. At first it was small stuff. She was coming home late more often, saying she had worked dinners or needed to stay late for projects. Then, I noticed how secretive she became with her phone. She'd take it with her everywhere, even into the bathroom. She'd get these random texts late at night and quickly turn the screen away or laugh it off like it was nothing. I tried to brush it off. I told myself I was overthinking. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who's always suspicious and paranoid, but deep down, something didn't feel right. My gut was screaming at me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Then came the day everything fell apart. Kayla left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. A message popped up, and I happened to see it. It was from a man named Sam. The text read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." I froze. My stomach sank, and my hands started shaking. I wanted to believe I'd misread it, that there was some other explanation, but there wasn't. The message was clear as day. My wife was having an affair. When I confronted her, at first, she denied it. She said Sam was just a friend and tried to gaslight me, claiming I was reading too much into it, but I wasn't stupid. I pressed her until she finally broke down and admitted the truth. They'd been seeing each other for months behind my back. I was devastated. We'd been married for 5 years and I thought we were happy. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never imagined she'd betray me like this. I told her to pack her things and leave that night. Watching her walk out the door was both a relief and a heartbreak. Relief because I didn't have to look at her face anymore, but heartbreak because the life I thought we were building together was gone. After Kayla left, I called my parents because I needed their support. I was still in shock, and I thought they'd be just as angry and hurt as I was, but their reaction wasn't anything like what I expected. When I told my mom about the affair, her first response wasn't, "How could she do that to you?" or, "Are you okay?" Instead, she said, "Well dear, marriages don't fall apart for no reason. Maybe you need to think about what you did to push her away." I was stunned. I thought I must have misheard her, but then my dad chimed in with, "Kayla is a good girl. Are you sure you're not overreacting? Women have needs, and sometimes, they make mistakes." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife cheated on me, and my parents were blaming me. I tried explaining how betrayed I felt, how much pain I was in, but they just kept telling me I should work things out with Kayla instead of throwing away our marriage. My mom even had the audacity to say, "Maybe you just weren't meeting her needs. You know how women can get when they feel neglected." I left their house feeling more betrayed than I did when I found out about the affair. It was like I'd lost my family and my marriage in one fell swoop. I thought the betrayal couldn't get any worse. Then, the following Sunday, my younger sister, Ivera, texted me, asking why I wasn't at dinner. I was confused because I hadn't been invited. That's when she told me Kayla was there. My wife, the woman who cheated on me, was sitting at my parents' table like nothing had happened. I called my mom immediately, trying to understand what was going on. Her response? "We didn't want to take sides. Kayla is still family." I was furious. "I'm your family," I told her. "I'm your son." But she brushed it off, saying they were just trying to keep things civil. She even implied I was being immature for making a big deal out of it. Since then, these dinners have been happening weekly. Kayla is a regular guest, laughing and eating with my parents and siblings while I'm left to sit at home, completely excluded. My siblings haven't said much. One of them told me, "You know how mom and dad are, just let it go." But how am I supposed to let it go? How do you let go of your own parents treating your cheating wife better than they treat you? Right now, I'm at a loss. My marriage is over. My parents have sided with Kayla, and I feel like I don't have a family anymore. I don't know how to move forward from this. If anyone has advice, I'd love to hear it because I'm barely holding it together at this point. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since I first found out about Kayla's affair, and things haven't gotten any easier. If anything, they've only gotten messier. I've been trying to focus on myself, sorting out my emotions, figuring out of the separation, but my parents, they've made everything so much worse. At first, I avoided confronting them. I kept thinking, maybe they just need time to understand what I'm going through. But after hearing from my sister Tova that Kayla had been invited to a family dinner while I was pointedly left out, I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. My parents had made their stance painfully clear, and I wasn't going to let it slide. So I called them up and told them I wanted to come over to talk. They sounded normal, like nothing had happened. My mom even said, "Sure dear. Come by any time." That fake sweetness felt like a slap in the face after everything, but I swallowed my frustration and showed up. When I got there, they were sitting in the living room, looking like the perfect picture of calm. My dad was reading the newspaper, and my mom was knitting, of all things. It was surreal, like they were pretending everything was fine. "I need to know why you're still seeing Kayla," I said, cutting straight to the point. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. She cheated on me. She to the point. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. She cheated on me, she broke our marriage, and instead of supporting me, you're having dinners with her? My mom didn't even look up from her knitting. "Honey," she said in that condescending tone she's mastered, "we're not taking sides. Kayla is still family." "Family?" I repeated, incredulous. "She cheated on your son. She's the reason my marriage fell apart. How is she still family?" That's when my dad chimed in. "Relationships are complicated, Adam. People make mistakes. Maybe instead of getting angry, you should think about what part you played in all this." I was stunned. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. "What part I played? Are you seriously blaming me for her cheating?" My dad shrugged, like this was some kind of casual debate. "I'm just saying people don't cheat for no reason. Maybe there were things Kayla needed that she wasn't getting at home." At that point I was shaking with anger. She lied to me, she betrayed me, and instead of having my back, you're making excuses for her? My mom finally put down her knitting and gave me this pitying look. "Dear, we just think you're being too emotional about this. You're not seeing the bigger picture. Marriage takes work. And sometimes, well, sometimes you have to look at the whole situation, not just your side." "The whole situation, my side?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Do you even care how much this has hurt me?" I asked. "Do you care about what I'm going through at all?" My mom sighed, like she was already tired of the conversation. "Of course we care, Adam, but you can't expect us to cut out of our lives. She's been a part of this family for years. We're not just going to throw her away." "Throw her away? Like she was some precious heirloom they couldn't bear to lose?" I felt like I was in the twilight zone. My own parents were prioritizing the woman who cheated on me over their own son. "I can't do this," I said, my voice breaking. "I came here hoping you'd understand, hoping you'd support me, but clearly, I was wrong." My dad tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "No, I don't want to hear it. If you want to keep Kayla in your lives, fine, but don't expect me to stick around and play happy family while you keep disrespecting me like this." I left before they could say anything else. As soon as I got in my car, I broke down in tears. I had gone in hoping for even a shred of support, but all I got was blame and dismissal. It felt like losing my parents on top of losing my marriage. I don't know how to describe the mix of emotions I'm feeling. Anger, hurt, betrayal, but also, this cold, hard realization that my parents aren't going to change. They've made their choice, and it's not me. I've decided I'm not going to keep chasing their approval. If they want to side with Kayla, that's on them, but I'm done begging them to see my pain. Right now, I need to focus on the people who actually have my back, my friends, my therapist, and myself. Because if I've learned anything from this mess, it's that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most can let you down in ways you never imagined. Update 2. After weeks of sitting at home feeling like a ghost in my own family, I couldn't take the exclusion anymore. It wasn't just the emotional pain of being left out. It was the nagging sense that something deeper was going on. Why were my parents so hell-bent on keeping Kayla around? I mean, they barely batted an eye when I told them she cheated on me. My dad's dismissive comments about one mistake and my mom's insistence that I try comments about one mistake, and my mom's insistence that I try to make it work had felt off from the start. But this, inviting her to family dinners, like nothing happened, it wasn't adding up. I started paying closer attention to every little thing they said or did regarding Kayla. I wasn't expecting to uncover a bombshell. I thought maybe they were just being naive or stubborn, but the truth turned out to be so much worse. The first clue came during a phone call with my younger brother, Elric. Unlike my parents, Elric had at least tried to act sympathetic toward me since the separation. I wouldn't say he was taking my side. He's always been more of a neutral party in family, but he wasn't actively defending Kayla either, which I appreciated. One evening, as we were catching up, he casually mentioned something that made my heart stop. "Oh, yeah, Dad's been super stressed about Kayla's business lately. You know, with everything going on between you two." "Wait, what? What does Dad's stress about Kayla's business have to do with me?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Elric paused, clearly realizing he'd said too much. He tried to backpedal, mumbling something about how Dad had mentioned it in passing, but I wasn't buying it. I pressed him for details. And eventually, he caved. Turns out, a couple of years ago, my dad had invested a significant amount of money in Kayla's business, a small real estate venture Kayla started before we got married. At the time, I thought it was just a casual loan, the kind of thing families do to help each other out, but according to Elric, it was much more than that. My dad had sunk a large portion of his savings into the business, banking on its success as part of his retirement plan. Suddenly, everything started clicking into place. My parents weren't siding with Kayla because they genuinely believed she was a good girl who deserved a second chance. They were siding with her because their finances were tied to her. If we divorced, there was a chance the business partnership would fall apart and my dad wasn't willing to risk that. I felt sick. The betrayal was almost too much to process. My parents weren't just dismissing my pain, they were actively protecting the woman who had hurt me because of money. All those family dinners, the excuses about keeping the peace, they weren't about maintaining relationships. They were about ensuring their investment stayed intact. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Kayla must have known this too. It explained why she was so comfortable showing up at my parents' house every week, acting like she still belonged there. She wasn't just playing the victim, she was leveraging their financial ties to her to keep them on her side. Fueled by a mix of anger and desperation, I decided to confront my parents again. This time, I wasn't going to let them brush me off with vague excuses about family unity. I wanted answers, and I wanted them to admit what they were doing. I showed up at their house unannounced, just like I had the first time. My mom answered the door, looking surprised, but not particularly thrilled to see me. "Is Dad home?" I asked, brushing past her before she could respond. She followed me into the living room, where my dad was sitting in his usual spot watching TV. "We need to talk," I said, crossing my arms and standing in front of the screen so he couldn't ignore me. He sighed, clearly annoyed. "What now? What now?" I repeated, my voice trembling with anger. "You've been taking Kayla's side since day one, and I finally know why. Elric told me about the business. You're protecting her because you don't want your investment to fail. Isn't that right?" My dad's face hardened, and for a moment I thought he was going to deny it, but then he just shrugged and said, "What do you want me to do? Throw it all away because of your marital problems?" "Marital problems?" I snapped. "She cheated on me. She destroyed our marriage. And you're acting like I'm the one in the wrong because it's inconvenient for your finances." "Look, it's not that simple," he said, his tone defensive. "Kayla made a mistake, but she's working hard to make things right. You can't just throw away a good business partnership because of one personal issue." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own father was prioritizing his bank account over my well-being. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" I asked, my voice breaking. "You're choosing money over your own son. Do you have any idea how that feels?" My mom, who had been silent up until this point, finally spoke up. "We're not choosing money over you," she said, her voice soft and patronizing. "We're just trying to do what's best for everyone." "Everyone except me apparently," I shot back. The conversation went in circles after, with my parents refusing to take any accountability for their actions. My mom kept insisting that I was being emotional and short-sighted while my dad doubled down on his stance that I needed to think about the bigger picture. It was like talking to a brick wall. By the time I left, I felt more alone than ever. My parents had made their choice, and it wasn't me. They were willing to betray their own son to protect their financial interests, and there was nothing I could do to change that. Update 3. After that disastrous confrontation with my parents, I realized there was no point in trying to reason with them anymore. They had made their priorities clear, and I wasn't one of them. I spent the next few days trying to process everything. Kayla's betrayal, my parents' complicity, and the sheer absurdity of the whole situation. It felt like my world was crumbling around me, and I didn't know how to hold it together. One night, as I was sitting in my apartment scrolling aimlessly through social media, I saw a post from my sister, Leora. It was a picture of my family at one of their weekly dinners. Kayla was in the photo sitting between my dad and my brother, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. My mom had captioned it, "Family time is the best time." The knot in my stomach tightened. It was bad enough knowing they were having these dinners without me, but seeing them flaunted online was like a slap in the face. They weren't just excluding me, they were actively celebrating my absence. I wanted to scream, cry, and throw my phone across the room all at once. Instead, I took a deep breath and did something I should have done weeks ago. I blocked every single one of them. My parents, my siblings, even Kayla. I couldn't keep torturing myself by watching them carry on like nothing had happened. If they wanted to choose her over me, fine, but I wasn't going to stick around and let them rub it in my face. The next day, I made another big decision. I sent a message to the family group chat, one final attempt to set the record straight and make them understand how much they had hurt me. It wasn't long or emotional. I kept it simple and to the point. "I'm done trying to fix a family that doesn't care about me. You've made your choice, and I'm making mine. Don't contact me again unless you're ready to take responsibility for your actions." Then I muted the chat and walked away. At first, I felt a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But as the hours passed, doubts started to creep in. Was I being too harsh? Would cutting ties with my family make things worse in the long run? I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I was giving up too easily, even though I knew deep down that I had done everything I could. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages in the group chat. My mom was practically begging me to reconsider, saying I was being dramatic and tearing the family apart. My dad, on the other hand, was furious. He called me immature and accused me of burning bridges for no reason. Even Leora chimed in, telling me I was overreacting and that family is family no matter what. But the message that hurt the most came from my older brother, Aiden. He had always been the one person in the family I thought I could count on, but even he was taking their side. "You're acting like a child," he wrote. "We're all trying to keep things together and you're just making it harder for everyone." I stared at my phone, tears streaming down my face. I couldn't believe what I was reading. How could they all be so blind to what I was going through? How could they defend a woman who had destroyed my marriage and expect me to just sit back and accept it? That was the moment I realized I wasn't just cutting ties with my parents, I was cutting ties with my entire family. If they couldn't support me when I needed them the most, then they didn't deserve to be part of my life. Over the next few weeks I started rebuilding. I threw myself into therapy, determined to work through the pain and come out stronger on the other side. I reconnected with old friends, people I had lost touch with over the years, and found solace in their support. I even started exploring new hobbies, things I had always wanted to try but never had the time for when I was married. It wasn't easy. There were days when the loneliness felt unbearable, and I wondered whether I had made the right decision. But every time I thought about going back, I remembered that photo from Leora's post. The way they had all been laughing and smiling like nothing had happened, and I knew I couldn't go back to that. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message that changed everything. It was from an unknown email address with no subject line and no signature. At first, I thought it was spam, but when I opened it, my blood ran cold. Attached to the email were screenshots of messages between Kayla and my dad. The timestamps showed they had been sent over the past few years, dating back to before Kayla and I were even married. At first, I thought it was just friendly banter. Kayla had always been close with my parents, but the more I read, the more it became clear that this was something else entirely. In one message, Kayla thanked my dad for always having her back and said she didn't know what she would do without him. Another message showed my dad reassuring Kayla that he would always support her no matter what, even if it meant going against me. But the most shocking message of all was one from Kayla, sent just a few weeks after we got married. "I wish things were different," she wrote. "If I had met you first, none of this would have happened." My hands were shaking as I read the messages. My dad and Kayla weren't just close, they were having some kind of emotional affair, and suddenly, everything made sense. Their unwavering support for her, their dismissal of my feelings, the family dinners, they weren't just about protecting my dad's investment, they were about protecting their own twisted little secret. Update 4. After discovering those messages, my first instinct was to confront my dad directly. But as I sat there, staring at my phone, I realized this wasn't something I could handle with a single conversation. This wasn't just about him betraying me. It was about years of deception and a complete lack of loyalty. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I forwarded the messages to my entire family. I didn't add any commentary or explanation. I didn't need to. The screenshots spoke for themselves. Within minutes, my phone blew up. My mom was the first to call, but I let it go to voicemail. My brother Aiden followed, then Leora, then my dad himself. I ignored every single one of them. After weeks of feeling like no one was in my corner, I finally had proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't overreacting. I wanted them to sit with that truth for a while before I said anything. By the end of the day, the family group chat was in chaos. My siblings were demanding answers. My mom was threatening to get to the bottom of this, and my dad was desperately trying to spin the situation, saying the messages were taken out of context. Kayla, of course, was radio silent, not a single word from her, which only confirmed her guilt. The next morning my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept all night, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of the woman who had always been my protector. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as I opened the door, "I had no idea." We sat down, and she told me everything. She admitted that she had been blindly defending Kayla because of their business partnership, but she swore she didn't know about the emotional affair. She looked genuinely heartbroken as she talked about my dad, saying she didn't know how to process the betrayal. "I trusted him," she said, her voice breaking. "I trusted both of them." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a small sense of validation. My mom at least was finally starting to see things from my perspective, but it didn't erase the damage that had been done, and I told her as much. "You chose her over me," I said. "I needed you, and you chose her." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know, and I'll never forgive myself for it." Over the next few days, the family imploded. My siblings turned on my dad, demanding to know why he had been so close to Kayla. My mom moved out of the house and started consulting a lawyer about divorce proceedings. And Kayla, she disappeared entirely. She deleted her social media accounts, stopped attending the family dinners, and cut off all contact with my parents. But the real turning point came when Leora called me late one night. She sounded shaken, like she had been crying, and she apologized for not supporting me sooner. I didn't want to believe it, she said. I thought Dad would never do something like this. She went on to tell me that my dad had been desperately trying to do damage control, claiming the messages were misinterpreted and insisting that he had only been trying to support Kayla through a rough time. But Leora wasn't buying it, and neither was Aiden. We're on your side now, she said. I just hope it's not too late. It was bittersweet hearing those words. On one hand, I was glad my siblings were finally seeing the truth, but on the other hand, I couldn't help but feel like it was too little, too late. Where were they when I was crying myself to sleep every night? Where were they when I was begging for someone to believe me? As the weeks went on, I started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I finalized my divorce from Kayla, moved into a new apartment, and started focusing on my career. Therapy became a lifeline for me, helping me process the pain and betrayal I had experienced. Slowly but surely, I began to feel like myself again. But just when I thought the drama was over, I got another surprise. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail from Kayla. It was handwritten, and the sight of her familiar scrawl made my stomach turn. For a moment, I considered throwing it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was exactly what you'd expect, a half-hearted apology mixed with excuses and justifications. She claimed she never meant to hurt me, that she had been confused and lonely, and that my dad had been a source of comfort during a difficult time. She ended the letter by saying she hoped we could find a way to move forward and heal as a family. I laughed out loud when I read that last part. Heal as a family? After everything she had done, the audacity of that statement was almost comical. I ripped the letter into tiny pieces and tossed it in the trash where it belonged. As for my dad, he continued to deny any wrongdoing, even as his marriage to my mom fell apart. He tried reaching out to me several times, leaving voicemails and sending long, rambling emails about how he never meant to hurt anyone, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I had spent enough time trying to fix a family that didn't value me, and I wasn't going to waste another second on it. Now, months later, I'm in a much better place. I've surrounded myself with people who truly care about me, and I've learned to prioritize my own happiness over trying to please others. My mom and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship, and my siblings have been making an effort to be more supportive. It's not perfect, but it's a start. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest, but you don't have to let their actions define you. You have the power to walk away, to set boundaries, and to rebuild your life on your own terms. And as for Kayla and my DDA, they can have each other. They deserve exactly what they got. Mini update. It's been a few months since everything went down, and honestly, I was starting to think I'd never hear from my family again, at least not in any way that mattered. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. It was Leora, my younger sister. Her message was simple. Can we talk? I need to apologize. At first, I didn't even know how to feel. Part of me wanted to ignore her. After everything, why should I even give her the time of day? But a bigger part of me wanted to know what she had to say. So, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my place. When I got there, she was already sitting at a table, looking like she hadn't slept in days. As soon as I sat down, she started apologizing, like really apologizing. She told me she'd been carrying so much guilt about not standing up for me when everything happened. I should have been there for you, she said, her voice shaky. I let Dad and Mom twist everything, and I stayed quiet because it was easier, but I've been thinking about it for months, and it makes me sick that I didn't say anything. Hearing her admit that honestly brought me to tears. For so long, I felt like I was shouting into a void, like no one cared how much I was hurting. I told her how much her silence had hurt me, how isolated I'd felt. But also, that her reaching out now really meant something. She didn't try to defend herself, just listened, and promised to do better. She told me she'd been keeping her distance from our parents too. I don't even recognize them anymore. She said, I hate how they treated you. And after everything that came out about Dad and Kayla, I can't even look at him. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel so alone. Leora and I talked for over an hour, and before we left, she hugged me and said, I'm going to be in your corner from now on. I swear. Just when I thought things might be settling down, Leora texted me again a week later. This time, it was about Kayla. Apparently, she had the audacity to reach out to her. Trying to worm her way back into the family. She spun some pathetic story about wanting to fix things and reconnect. I couldn't believe it. After everything she'd done, she still thought she could manipulate her way back into the fold. But Leora wasn't having it. And honestly, her response was everything I wish I'd had the guts to say to her. She sent me screenshots of their conversation and I almost choked on my coffee reading them. Kayla started with, I know things got messy, but I just want to make amends. Leora didn't even hesitate. She fired back with, "Kayla, you cheated on my brother, destroyed his life, and turned our family upside down. Don't you dare act like you're the victim." Kayla tried to play the nice girl, saying, "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just want to move forward." And that's when Leora shut her down completely. She wrote, "The only thing you regret is losing control. You're not welcome here, so stay away." She told me she tried to call her after that, but she ignored her. "I'm not wasting another second on her," she said when we talked about it. "She deserves everything coming her way." For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone in my family actually had my back. Leora's apology didn't erase all the pain, but it showed me that at least one person in my family understood what I'd been through. And seeing her stand up to Kayla, that was just the cherry on top. I've spent so much time feeling like I had to fight these battles alone, knowing that someone else, someone from my family, no less, was willing to step in, made me feel a little less alone. It's not perfect, and it doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. And as for Kayla, the fact that she keeps trying to slither back into our lives just proves what I've known all along. She's never going to change. But now, at least, I'm not the only one who sees her for what she really is.